I call this meeting of the Alvin Independent School District to order. Let the record show that the quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. First thing on the deal, we will have a public hearing regarding the 2020 tax rate.
Good evening, President Humbert, Board, and Superintendent Nelson. Thank you for opportunity to speak this evening. Much of this will be a review. We have previously had a budget and tax rate hearing on June 9th, but following a series of events that were put in place with House Bill 3, we're required to once again have a tax rate hearing to officially propose and recommend the adoption of a tax rate this evening. So as you recall, this work began in the spring, and we had lots of conversations and strategic work with the board as we talked about this process to make sure that through the budget development process, the needs of our students are taken care of currently, that we're addressing the uncertainty surrounding COVID and how that could potentially impact revenue in our budgets, as well as plan for the future. And I think that is absolutely what has been done throughout this process. One thing you'll notice on this slide, and this is just a little sneak preview of the public hearing that will occur next week, we talked quite a bit about the first rating and our strategic use of fund balance. But I am excited to share with the board, at least in this setting, and more next month, that Alvin ISD has received an A superior rating on the first indicators. And so that's very favorable, positive news, and certainly reflects the work of the board under the direction of Superintendent Nelson. So congratulations on that positive update there. And so as we went through those conversations, we did have three significant unknowns at the time: enrollment and our ADA, what was going to happen with the number of students coming back. That number, as you're aware, is still being updated, having more and more students enroll as families make decisions on how to best address their decisions for schooling during COVID. We now have a values number, which we didn't at the time. This previous year was a favorable number from a growth standpoint, and we still have an unknown related to tax collections, and the tax rate will be set, but we still don't know what the broader impact on collections will be as we move forward with the economic impact of COVID. So you see here, it's a little bit difficult to see on the chart, but our value growth in the district was just shy of 10% from this year. So it actually came in a bit higher than some of those preliminary numbers that we received, which is favorable to the district, particularly on the INS debt service aspect of our tax rate. It doesn't really impact us as much on maintenance and operations in a post-House Bill 3 era. But as you recall, the Board of Trustees adopted the budget on June 9th, and that went into effect on July 1st. And that is what our campuses and our staff have been using to begin this school year. And so that's in effect. And that is where we kind of left off at the last public hearing. What happened after that is we had to wait for the appraisal district to share with us what our value number would be. In a House Bill 3 era school finance environment, we then have to wait for the Texas Education Agency to look at our historical growth and our growth for the current year to determine what they call as our MCR, or our maximum compressed tax rate. So once we received those values, certified values from the county, we were able to turn that into Texas Education Agency, and they shared our maximum compressed tax rate. And that is what we have to use to make sure that we stay within the legal authority of a voter-approved tax rate. So once we received that MCR from TEA, we were then able to share the updated numbers and tax rate projections with the county, and we worked through that process with them. And so we have received their certification, as you see there, that the proposed rate is at or under the voter-approved tax rate, which is a key component of adopting a tax rate. And so making sure that we were in compliance with, and due diligence regarding letting the public know about this hearing that we had this evening. As soon as we received the public notice, we went ahead and put it on our website to give ample time for folks to be able to know when we'd be having this meeting. And then we also published in the July 23rd edition of the Alvin Sun. So the notice you see there has been available for our community to see, and it has on it the tax rate that is being proposed to you this evening for adoption. As you can see there on the chart, the proposed tax rate for the current year is the same as the preceding year. The total rate is $1.3977. You can see it's flat from the prior school year, but it is a reduction of more than 5 cents from the year prior to that. The tax rate will consist of an M&O, or the recommendation will consist of an M&O rate of $1.0052 and an INS rate of 0.3925 cents for a total Alvin ISD proposed tax rate of $1.3977. So at this time, I ask the board, do you have any questions? And as it's a public hearing, do we have any questions or comments from the public? With that, I recommend we conclude the public hearing.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the, if y'all all please stand, we'll have the invocation and pledge of allegiance by Trustee Scheibel.
Please bow your heads and pray with me. Heavenly Father, we come to you in gratitude, thanking you for the ability to meet and the opportunity to serve our community. We humbly ask for your protection for our students, teachers, administrators, and staff as we continue to progress with our school year. Please help us to serve with grace and humility as we seek to make wise decisions on behalf of our students and district. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Next, we'll have the superintendent's report.
Okay, board. For the superintendent's report, of course, you know these last couple of weeks we've been doing our phase-in. So the first few weeks of school, here are some pictures from our virtual and in-person instruction. Even though the first days of schools were unique this year, the excitement remained the same. Our students and staff were so excited to reunite, whether it be in person or virtually. And as I updated you, I believe at the workshop, we had very few glitches those first few days. I think our number one thing was just logins for kids. But as far as internet bandwidth, due to some very careful planning on your part in our technology department, we have our infrastructure in place to handle the bandwidth that we need across the district. So we've been very excited about that because we didn't experience some of the other complications that other districts, surrounding districts may have experienced. But again, I commend you all for having the foresight in planning for those things, not knowing that we were going to have COVID or virtual planning, but it's been a good test for our technology. Also, as we've been out and about visiting campuses, we've heard so many positive things from our staff and our campus leaders about the beginning of school. So that's lots of positive going on out there. Next, last week, as you all know, Shadow Creek High School received their championship rings because of the state champs. We had anticipated on doing this prior to graduation, but the rings weren't ready, so we were able to last week, Coach Butler and his staff and staff from Shadow Creek High School present our state champions with their championship rings, and you can see some of the pictures down there. I believe in the lower left-hand corner is our quarterback, Kyron Drones. And Kyron's dad is one of our coaches, but he coaches on the other side of the ball. He coaches defense. Kyron has committed to Baylor University. Last week when I was visiting with Coach Butler and Tyrone, Miss Butler, what's Tyrone's last name? Green, that's right. I always call him Tyrone. I asked them about other commits, and they have another commit to Baylor. They have a linebacker maybe that could go anywhere, or
The one on the bottom left is like
wherever. Like he's going to be able to name. He's well sought out across the nation. So it'll be interesting to watch him this season and see where he chooses to go. And we have some commits. Coach Green said to U of H as well, and there's several, as y'all know. And I'm certain that Manville High School and Alvin High School will also have some commits. I haven't got to visit with Coach Hall as much, but we saw Coach Butler and Coach Green last week and were able to visit with them. So very excited. I believe they had 10 players that weren't able to attend, but their parents came. And those 10 are off at college, Virginia Tech, and just across the U.S. as well, and in Texas. So we're very excited. Coach Butler, as I told him, I said, we're ready for the second ring this year. He's ready to get the season started, is what he said. So very excited. All of our football began practice on Monday. And so today, as I was driving around to some of the schools, I saw the boys out practicing. So just very excited. Our volleyball teams are gearing up as well. So we have some very talented volleyball players as well that will have some commits. So we're anxious to hear about those. So lots of things going on in our sports world right now. Also, our fine arts, and we're going to celebrate some of those next month in accommodations. A reminder that our full-time parent-selected learning model begins on September the 14th. So that's next Monday. So those parents that committed to full or face-to-face, that begins next Monday. We do have some parents wanting to switch either way, and our academic team is working on a plan for that. As you can well imagine, I relate it to a jigsaw puzzle, right? Because it's all tied to staffing. So we may have an AVL class that has 30 students in it or 32 students, and it's hard to put any more students on that teacher commitment. So we have waiting lists right now that they can flip. And so once we determine that, and I keep looking at Dr. Valdez because her team is the one working with Mr. Martinez, or Dr. Martinez, I'm sorry, and Ms. Peltier, and their teams are trying to figure out how to make it all work for our parents, but also knowing that it really is tied to staffing and making sure that our staff is not overloaded by too quick of flipping. So we're working on that as well. So if you chose virtual learning, you'll continue to log in September 14th. And then we're working on a timeline for parents to make a decision if they want to flip at the end of the 9 weeks as well. So we'll have a deadline for that we'll try to stick to as well. Any questions? As you all know, we send out notices anytime we're notified of a positive case. This is a little bit of the district update. Mr. Gesh notifies the health department first that we have a positive case. He gives them all the identifying information, and they start their investigation as well. So we notify that campus, the community of that campus, the parents and the students. So, and then you're also getting notified that there's a case. But we have to make sure that we maintain HIPAA laws as well and not identify the person by name. So just know that is ongoing, as you all know.
We were also reporting that weekly to TEA, or?
TEA has a document now, but I don't believe they required it until today. Correct, Rory? Reporting?
Actually,
Yesterday, the 7th. Okay. The first week of September was when they're requiring that. So, any other questions related to start of school? It's exciting. It's different. Our kindergartners came back today. And so that's exciting. All our high school campuses had 9th through 12th graders on campus. I believe it was L through Z. Is that right, Dr. Martinez? Today? Yes? I believe so. Okay. I know, trying to keep up with, and then 6th and 7th graders, and then tomorrow, I believe 8th graders come on, and then they're all there. So just trying to keep up with who's doing what, but lots of energy on campuses. On another note, I'm sorry, President Humberg. This morning, Alvin High School started with a transformer was hit by lightning, so half the campus didn't have electricity. So kudos to our staff there. They quickly shifted students from areas that didn't have electricity to areas that did. But within an hour, Mr. Miller and Don Rabelais were working with the electric company, and we had it up and going again. So didn't cause too much of a disruption. So thank you to our operational side as well.
Very good.
Takes a team, really does.
All right. Okay, we're going to move on to commendations.
So we have one this evening, that very special one. It's the Alvin ISD Police Department. On August 6, 2020, the Alvin ISD Police Department received the award of Recognized Law Enforcement Agency from the Texas Police Chiefs Association Law Enforcement Recognition Program. This is the third time the department has received this honor. Beginning in 2006, the recognition program evaluates a police department's compliance with over 168 best business practices for Texas law enforcement. These best practices were carefully developed by Texas law enforcement professionals to assist agencies in the efficient and effective delivery of service and the protection of individuals' rights. These best practices cover all aspects of law enforcement operations, including use of force, protection of citizen rights, vehicle pursuits, property and evidence management, as well as patrol and investigative operations. The Alvin ISD Police Department was the second law enforcement agency in Brazoria County and the second ISD law enforcement agency in the state of Texas to be so recognized. To date, there are only 8 ISD law enforcement agencies that have achieved recognized status. The department will be recognized at the Texas Police Chiefs Association annual conference in April. So as noted above, we are so proud of our police department, and this evening we have Chief Putnell. Where's Chief? He leads our department, and as you know, Chief was a former or retired officer or former officer, I don't know if he retired. From Galveston PD. Along with him, we have Chad Fontenot, Captain Chad. Come on up, Chad. Chad is retired from Alvin PD, Police Department, and he's the captain. And then we also this evening asked for our sergeants because they're part of the leadership team. We have Ellen Stark, Sergeant Stark. We have Sergeant Lamonas, Juan Lamonas. Sergeant Stark, how long have you been with the Alvin ISD?
Almost 25 years.
25 years. How about Sergeant Lamonas? 27 years. And then we have, come around the corner, I see Sergeant, is Martin here? Oh, she's sick. How many years do you know, Chief?
12 years.
Okay, Sergeant Martin, Carrie Martin, and Sergeant David Ramirez. And Jermaine Jackson. Sergeant Jermaine? Jackson, come on up, Jermaine. How many years, Sergeant Ramirez, have you been with us? 2.5, and you came from Galveston Sheriffs?
Yes, ma'am.
Galveston Sheriffs. And then Sergeant Jackson.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been here a while. No?
No, I just have that type of face.
No. I just see you around the district everywhere. So how long have you been here, Sergeant Jackson?
2.5.
2.5, and what agency were you with prior?
Brookshire.
Brookshire,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. So as you all know, our cabinet and our leadership and our board, these men and women serve day in and day out, 24 hours a day for us. They do call-outs. I mean, they do home visits for wellness checks, not only for our students, but also for our staff members. And we can't thank them enough that they put their lives and their on the line every day for each one of us and each one of our families and the 128,000 people in Brazoria County that serve with us. They have one of the best training programs. They're the envy of several of the municipalities because of the training program that they do. They've done some cultural diversity training, and they plan to do an implicit bias training in the spring, which is highly sought after and hard to get, but we were, with Chief's diligence, was able to secure that as well. So thank you for all you do for Alvin ISD and the families and the staff here. We couldn't do it without you. We really appreciate all that y'all do and want to congratulate you on this wonderful honor and award that y'all have received. And I'm loving Chief's mask there with the hook 'em horns.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Tell Sergeant Martin thank you as well.
All right, now we come to the open forum session, and looks like we have one. We are now to the open forum portion of the agenda. If you would like to address the board, you should have completed the public participation form and submitted to the superintendent secretary prior to the meeting, according to policy of the BED local. After I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name and address and the purpose for addressing the board. Please understand that you will have 3 minutes to speak. If a translator is needed, you will be given 6 minutes to speak. I ask that you understand that the board cannot take action on your request or comment at this time. However, the president or designee may refer the request to the superintendent for review. And we have Ms. Janice Johnson.
Ms. Johnson, did you want to speak? I think Ms. McWhorter just went ahead and, since she had sent the email, in case you wanted to. It's up to you. Okay.
My name is Janice Johnson, address 13607 Sorghum Drive. I officially did not want to speak, but since I was on it, I wanted to publicly request, I had sent an email requesting for the meeting minutes of the last board meeting in August, that it be updated. And just to back up, so a gentleman by the name of Mr. Robinson had spoken in the open forum, and he basically spoke to ask to extend the outreach to minority-owned and women-owned businesses for our current and future AISD procurement opportunities. And within the minutes from the August meeting, it was written as expanded outreach to local businesses, not mentioning the minority and women-owned part of it. And so I had requested to the board in writing to please, I didn't know the protocol of it and had asked to please update that in the minutes. I did receive a email response from the president and also Superintendent Nelson saying that they would update it. But today I received an email from Ms. McWhorter, I'm sorry, am I saying your name correctly, that legal advice was sought from the Texas Association of School Boards. And they noted that the public comment is not required to be in the minutes. If anything, it would just be the subject matter that you listed on your request to speak. And so according to this, I guess it remained as extended outreach to local businesses. So I would like to publicly request if the minutes could be updated to reflect that Mr. Robinson did indeed specify minority-owned and women-owned. In the interest of when we are reviewing the concerns or the potential issues that the parents, our community is bringing to the board, this being one of them, I would just like it to be accurately reflected as we all work together to move forward and increase that diversity that's representative of our school district. So that's it. I just make my public request if that could be updated in the minutes. Thank you for your time.
All right, next we'll go to consent agenda item. Does anybody want to pull any of those A through F? All right, do we have a motion to approve consent agenda items A through F?
So moved.
By trustee Peterson, second by trustee Harris. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we will go to request consider approval of Alvin ISD 2020 tax rate.
So board resolutions included for board consideration to adopt the 2020-2021 Alvin ISD tax rate. The component breakdown of the proposed tax rate is as follows. Maintenance and operation, $1.0052, and interest and sinking, or INS, is 0.3925 for a total rate of $1.3977. The recommended total tax rate of $1.3977 is for both the M&O as well as the INS and is equal to the 2019-2020 Alvin ISD total tax rate of $1.3977. The proposed motion is defined by language established in the Texas Property Tax Code Section 26.05B.
Do we have a motion to approve the total Alvin ISD property tax rate of $1.3977, which is effectively a 5.12% increase in the tax rate?
So moved. Julie.
Oh, by trustee Pickering,
I'll second.
second by trustee Winterstrom. Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have request to consider approval of Alvin ISD Board resolution regarding state accountability.
So board, on March 18, 2020, the Texas Commissioner of Education announced that the administration of STAR exams would be canceled for the spring of 2020. And school districts and campuses would be assigned ratings of, quote, not rated, declared state of disaster for 2020. On March 19, 2020, the Texas governor issued Executive Order number GA-08 related to COVID-19 preparedness and mitigation. Through this action, and in accordance with guidelines from the President, ordered the temporary closure of all Texas school districts. It is important that the local education agencies are given the opportunity to focus on interventions necessary to recover instructional gaps resulting from school closures caused by COVID-19. Therefore, we're asking for consideration of a resolution asking the state to waive the accountability this year and approve the resolution to cancel the administration of the STAR tests and suspend state accountability for the 2020-21 school year to allow Alvin ISD to focus on these interventions that are necessary to recover instructional gaps.
All right, and I will read our resolution. Alvin Independent School District resolution for the board regarding state accountability. Whereas on March 13, 2020, the President declared a national emergency and the state of Texas has declared a statewide disaster regarding the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas on March 18, 2020, the Texas Commission of Education announced that administration of STAR exams would be canceled for spring 2020, and school district and campuses would be assigned ratings of no, not rated, declared state of disaster for 2020. Whereas on March 19, 2020, the state governor issued executive order number GA-808 relating to COVID-19 preparedness and mitigation. Through this action, in accordance with the guidelines from the president, ordered the temporary closure of all Texas school districts. Whereas assignment standard for the spring of 2021 can be adjusted, however, data from those assessments will not be interpretable with respect to previous year's assessment data. Whereas academic growth will not be possible to accurately calculate for spring 2021, as students will not have previous year STAR scores from spring 2020. Whereas academic growth accounts for 50% of an elementary or junior high's campus domain 3 score, which still have an adverse effect on overall accountability ratings for those campuses. Whereas external research shows that historically extended school closures negatively affect student achievement in math and reading. Whereas internal research shows that there are significant academic gains made at the end of each school year, which may not be present now with the extended school closure. Whereas exceptions have been made to school accountability in the past when campuses were greatly impacted by natural disasters such as Katrina, Rita, and Harvey. Whereas it is still unknown that additional adjustments to the educational process will be necessary to start the 2021 school year to address the social, emotional, and physical health impact upon students when they return to school in whatever format that may be. Now therefore to be resolved by the Board of Trustees of Alvin Independent School District that the STAR test should be canceled and that the state accountability should be suspended for the 2021 school year to allow districts to focus on interventions necessary to recover the instructional gap resulting from the school closure caused by COVID-19. So, do we have a motion to accept the district resolution as read
Motion.
by Trustee Tonini? Do we have a second?
Second.
Over here. Here. Shy.
Second by Trustee Scheibel. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Board.
Next, we have request to consider approval of Alvin ISD's asynchronous plan for remote instructions.
So for the 2020-2021 school year, the Texas Education Agency has made provisions to the average daily attendance that we refer to as ADA system to accommodate remote instruction. In order to provide remote instruction, school districts must submit an instructional plan to TEA by October 1st for review. Submitted plans will be reviewed by a team at TEA and will be approved or sent back to districts for revisions by December 2020. Alvin ISD has created an asynchronous plan for pre-K through 12th grade students. The plan consists of a combination of synchronous and asynchronous instruction. In a case where a combination is used, districts only have to submit an asynchronous plan. The plan must clearly identify the instructional systems developed for the creation of synchronous and asynchronous teaching and learning. The detailed plan is attached for your consideration.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve Alvin ISD's asynchronous plan for remote instruction?
So moved.
By Trustee Winterstrom. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Sorry, it's hard to figure out where the
with
sound's
the
coming from.
mask.
It's by Trustee Pickering. So any questions or comments?
I do have a question. Do we know or have any idea when, if it's submitted by October 1st, do we have any idea when we might know whether it's accepted or approved or it needs revision?
So they're supposed to send it back to us by December, but from what the commissioner has said in his weekly calls with us, is most likely most plans will be approved as long as they're addressing each core area and have a specific like time schedule and things, which our plan does. Our plan, I would say, exceeds what TEA is looking for. We put as much as we could in there for the instructional practices we know we need to address. So, you know, I can't speak for TEA or their commissioner, but we've been assured that if we follow what the guidelines are, that most likely it will be approved.
Okay. So we can
So-
just assume and.
Right,
list
we're-
by December.
Yes, we're working under this plan right now, and then we'll make any adjustments if they give us feedback. But from the plans, they have used some model plans online. That's where I said ours exceed what they've put out online as well. So, we have those high achievers in our academic department.
Any other questions or comments?
I was just going to say I appreciated the level of detail and the specifics.
Oh, yeah.
So, and, got a student at home and I've seen what ABL looks like. It's drastically different than what March looked like. We've met those expectations and I appreciate it.
And we have heard back from parents such as you, Trustee Scheibel, because you do have a student who's actually living it, and some of the rest of you in the room. But we've also heard from the parents that said it's wearing them out, especially, and I think it's with the younger kids that they're having to assist more than the junior high and high school, but they're tired by the end of the day. They ask the teacher for more recess time, so. That's the adults, not the kids.
Yes. I was very appreciative that included in the asynchronous plan was a blended mode so that there was also some synchronous and asynchronous where kids still were able to be engaged but still able to step back and take a break and kind of decompress, get away from the computer and,
Yes.
and like you said, do some PE or some creative arts or something of that nature. So
Well, and we found, I say we, Dr. Valdez and her deep dive into this plan and reading what the requirements were, she discovered initially we thought we'd do the synchronous, all synchronous, but it became to the point where you had to account for minute to minute to minute, and it was really going to be difficult for our students as well to be engaged the entire time without so the asynchronous with the synchronous built into it is what works best. And actually, some of the surrounding districts called Dr. Valdez and said, "Why are y'all doing this?" Because she was sharing with her academic peers. And once she explained it, they had not even seen the chart that she had discovered deep into the planning piece of it. So she was able to assist other districts in their plan as well. So she and her team did a really good job with.
Any other questions or comments?
Just thank you for all your work.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have request to consider approval of remote homebound instruction waiver.
So Board, this is in reference to two of our students. This waiver will allow the district to count a student receiving homebound instruction in attendance for FSP funding purposes, provided that all requirements of the homebound program are met except for face-to-face instruction from the homebound teacher. The request to receive virtual instruction is at the parent's request and will meet the following requirements. The student's ARD committee must have determined in a manner consistent with state and federal law that the remote homebound instruction to be provided meets the needs of the student. The ARD committee must have documented that the determination in the student's IEP and all requirements related to the provision of special education homebound instruction must be met except for face-to-face instruction from the homebound teacher. If a waiver is granted, the affected student will generate attendance, the eligible days they're present, according to the homebound funding provisions in 4.7.2.5 homebound funding and homebound documentation requirements.
Do we have a motion to approve the waiver as presented?
So moved.
Trustee Harris, do we have a second?
Second.
Who did the second?
Vivian.
By Trustee Scheibel. Any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Board. And can I just give kudos as well to Dr. Bruton and her department? They have done multiple ARDs through this COVID and had to make adjustments to IEPs, and over 3,000, I know. I don't know the exact number. She tells me and then gets caught up, but her staff has done a remarkable job under her leadership in serving our students in those special ed settings.
Very good. Next, we have request to consider approval of award of construction manager at-risk contract for elementary 21 and junior high number 9.
The construction manager at risk purchasing method for elementary number 21 and junior high number 9 was previously approved by the Board of Trustees. After review and evaluation by the Building Programs Department and the project architect, Gamma Construction has satisfied the evaluation criteria and submitted pricing that offers the best value to the district. So recommendation is Gamma Instruction for elementary 21 and junior high number 9.
Do we have a motion to approve Gamma Construction as construction manager at risk for elementary number 21 and junior high number 9, and authorize the superintendent or her designee to review and execute the final negotiated contract?
So moved.
By trustee Tonini, second by trustee Peterson. Any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have request to consider approval of class size waiver.
So Board, this is a waiver that you see each year due to our fast growth. This year is a little unique. You have the charts attached, and the waiver is needed when you exceed in pre-K through 4th grade the 22-to-1 ratio in one or more classrooms at the elementary schools due to rapid growth in our district. But as you see, we're requesting waivers for all the schools, and our Executive Director of Human Resources, Sarita Presley's here if y'all have any questions for her, but she can explain why we're requesting for each one of the schools.
All right. Do we have a motion for approval to be granted for class size waiver as presented?
So moved.
By trustee Harris, with second.
Second.
By trustee Wintersome. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
Hey, Ms. Presley, can you help us understand why we're requesting for every school?
So for the past few years, due to our growth, we've requested every school because the unanticipated, or we anticipated, but we don't anticipate as many for each campus. However, we've seen growth across the district, and we may hit that 22-to-1 in October, or above 22-to-1 in October, so we found it safer to request for all campuses. This year, as Superintendent Nelson mentioned, it's much different. The fluidity between kids going between AVL and face-to-face causes a 32-to-1 ratio for AVL, whereas 18-to-1 face-to-face. But with parents having the option to switch, we don't know when we'll end up with an over 22-to-1 ratio for every campus. So this year, besides anticipated growth, it's also the fluidity between the face-to-face and the AVL that caused us to go ahead and do every campus again. And that's just with K through 4, are the only ones we're required to ask for the waiver for, but we just play it safe there. In your charts, you'll see that we only have a few listed with 22-to-1. That's because at the time we prepared the information, that's where we were with those campuses. However, the others, staffed appropriately at this point, they will be at 22-to-1. However, the ones that we marked as over, if they were staffed the way they are today, they were all face-to-face, they would exceed the 22-to-1. So that's why those numbers are there.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
Other questions or comments?
Thank you, Ms. Presley.
Thank you.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have request to consider approval of employments.
So this also falls under HR, and these are teacher openings that have been recommended for your consideration, as well as a nurse. And then again, we've included those that are still waiting to take their certification test. But the majority of them are teachers.
Do we have a motion for approval to be granted for requested personnel items as presented?
So moved.
By trustee Harris. Do we have a second?
Second.
By trustee Wintersome. Any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have, does anybody have any future agenda items they want to put on? All right, then at this time, we're going to go into closed session. This board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act 551.074. So we are now in closed session. In open session, and at this time, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a second by trustee Winterston. Any- All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned. Thank you, ladies, very much.